Well, well, look who's still standing. Good. Because now it's time to talk about the storm you didn't just walk through. You shattered it. You weren't handed a path. You tore one through the wall, through the silence, through the doubt. And now, they're not asking what happened. They're asking how. How did you survive what was meant to destroy you? How did you turn rock bottom into your launch pad? They thought they buried you, but you were just planted. You grew underground where no one saw the pain, the battle, the grit it took to breathe in silence. And now you rise, not because you had support, but because you had no other choice. Because the only thing louder than the voices against you was the whisper inside you that said, keep going. You did, and now you walk in rooms they said you'd never enter, not as a guest, but as the force that redesigned this. Let's be honest, this wasn't supposed to happen. You weren't the chosen one. You weren't the safe bet. They had you written off, boxed in, labeled as a failure before the first round began. They expected you to quit, to fold under pressure, to shrink beneath the weight of expectation and the sting of mockery. But you didn't just survive. You made silence your symphony. You stitched your scars into armor. While they laughed at you, you crafted. While they doubted, you designed. You didn't scream back. You built forward. And when the lights came back on, you weren't behind, you were ahead. Far ahead. Now they whisper your name, not because they admire you, but because you proved what they feared the most, that they were wrong. And you were right to keep going. They tried to define you with limits, but you don't fit inside outlines. You're not a character in their story. You're the rewrite, the glitch in their predictable pattern. They made fun of your ambition, joked about your struggle, rolled their eyes at your dreams. But here's what they never understood. You weren't chasing applause. You were chasing something deeper. Clarity, freedom, truth. You didn't need a spotlight. You became the light. You didn't want their validation. You wanted your evolution. And every time they tried to box you in, you expanded. Every time they tried to knock you down, you grew roots. Now you stand tall, not because they lifted you, but because you learned how to rise from your knees. With fire in your lungs and steel in your spine. They still don't get it, but you do, and that's more than enough. There's a reason they keep watching, a reason they scroll through your success like it's a puzzle they can't solve, because they can't measure what you became. You didn't just win, you transformed. You didn't level up by their rules. You rewrote the game and built your own. While they were calculating how to fit in, you were constructing something no one saw coming. You turned every rejection into redirect, every insult into instruction. They wanted you to break, but you turned pressure into fuel. And now you move like you were designed in a different realm. You walk with the silence of someone who has nothing to prove, but everything to protect. That kind of power isn't loud. It's still. It's the calm before a storm. It's the type of calm that unsettles people because it's rooted in unshakable truth. The truth of what you've been through. The truth of what you've become. They keep asking, how did you do that? as if they could understand the nights you cried and created, the mornings you woke up with nothing but purpose in your chest and pain in your stomach, the days you smiled through the wreckage, the moments you kept building with bloody hands and shaky breath. You don't owe them an explanation. You owe yourself credit, because you moved without applause. You climbed with no rope. You fought without fanfare. And that's why you're untouchable now. Not because you're perfect, but because you kept going when you had every reason to stop. You didn't wait for the pain to end. You made it part of your rhythm. And now they see you and think it was easy, because they never saw the war. Let them wonder. You earned that. You want to know what really scares them? It's not that you made it. It's that you made it without their help. That you became something massive while they weren't looking. That their absence didn't break you, it freed you. You stopped waiting for doors to open and built a house with no locks. You stopped asking for inclusion and created a space so magnetic that even your silence echoes louder than their noise. They thought they had you figured out. They thought you needed them to win. But what they never saw coming was the version of you who stopped explaining, stopped apologizing, and started moving like a storm no one could contain. And now they check your progress like it's the stock market. Obsessive, nervous, silent. Because while they tried to be powerful, you became power itself. They'll never admit it out loud, but they feel it. Every time you walk into a space, you change the temperature. Every time your name comes up, the room tilts. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy refuses to shrink. You don't enter quietly, you arrive. And not just physically, but energetically. Your presence is layered with every moment you chose strength over comfort, persistence over approval, vision over validation. That's not something they can copy. That's something you earned through isolation, through sweat, through fear. You turned into focus. They're still talking about who deserves what. But you're not even in that conversation anymore, because you're not seeking permission. You're living the result. You're not reacting, you're creating. And that's something they'll never understand. You're not the comeback. You're the disruption. You're not the answer. You're the question they can't silence. You're the reason they look over their shoulders now. Not because you're dangerous, but because you didn't fold. They try to write your ending, but you took the pen. And now you write your own story, inked in experience, bound in resilience. They're still operating in the old system, but you're the glitch that revealed the flaw. The one who didn't just survive the storm, but became the lightning inside it. You're not a moment, you're a movement. A breathing reminder that pain can polish, struggle can shape, and silence can speak louder than anything else. You don't need to speak loudly anymore. Your life does the talking. Let them watch. Let them speculate. Let them refresh your page like it holds answers to their confusion. Because it does. You're the blueprint now, not because you asked to be, but because you became it, quietly, consistently, unshakably. They're afraid of that. Not the noise, but the depth. Because deep down, they know they couldn't survive what you did. They know they would have quit where you climbed. That's why they whisper. That's why they stare. That's why they try to analyze you like a formula. But you're not something to be solved. You're something to be witnessed. You're not a myth. You're the reality they ignored until it was too big to deny. And now, you live in the space between their comfort and their regret. You want to know how you really did it? You stopped waiting for the applause. You stopped needing a witness to believe in your own power. You looked in the mirror and realized that no one was coming to save you, and that was the most liberating truth you ever embraced. You saved yourself. You sharpened your scars. You used every bruise as blueprint. You rebuilt, not softer, not safer, but stronger, wiser, untouchable. They don't get to ask how anymore. Not after they laughed. Not after they left. Not after they doubted everything you were becoming. Now they just watch. And you keep rising. Because this isn't the end. This is just your becoming.